Oscar bait is Hollywood's favorite scam. Grab a Pulitzer novel, stack the cast with A-listers, and hope the Academy bites. But for every King's Speech or Slumdog Millionaire, there's a Goldfinch, a $45 million disaster that critics said was less fun than watching a pigeon. These are the pathetic Oscar bait movies that didn't just flop. They humiliated their studios, killed awards campaigns before they began, and in some cases even helped bury entire companies. The Goldfinch is the textbook example of Oscar bait. You've got a Pulitzer Prize novel, a serious director, world-class cinematography, a cast full of names, and you hope that'll carry you through awards season. Instead, what happened was the reviews out of Toronto Film Festival were so toxic that the Oscar campaign pretty much died before it started. Critics hated the convoluted plot, and any kind of awards push was just abandoned. Empire magazine summed it up perfectly. Frankly, you might have more fun watching a pigeon for 149 minutes. The movie limped to just $10 million worldwide. Warner Brothers lost about $50 million on this one. Even Donna Tartt, the author, hated the adaptation so much that she fired her agent, someone she'd worked with for 30 years. She got $3 million for the rights, but wasn't allowed to write the script or even be credited as a producer, so she disowned the movie entirely. The current war is another one with everything going for it, on paper anyway. You've got Benedict Cumberbatch, Michael Shannon, Nicholas Hoult, even Martin Scorsese producing. It's about Edison and Westinghouse and the war to electrify America. $30 million budget. Oscar bait all the way, right? Except the first version of this movie was completely sabotaged by Harvey Weinstein. He basically took over the edit behind the director's back, cut it to pieces, and the version that premiered at TIFF 2017 just got hammered. The reviews were so bad, the release got canceled, and then, of course, the Weinstein scandal exploded. The project was dead in the water. A couple years later, after Weinstein Company collapsed, director got the rights back, thanks to a clause Scorsese insisted on, and he put together his own cut. The film ended up grossing about $12.8 million. So that's another big loss. Now we're getting into straight-up fiasco territory. Nicole Kidman as Grace Kelly, $30 million budget, Cannes Film Festival opener, the whole glamorous biopic package. And then it just completely falls apart. First, Cannes reviews were real bad. Critics tore it up for being melodramatic and basically just inventing stuff about Grace Kelly's life. Behind the scenes, Harvey Weinstein had the US rights and started fighting with director over the cut. He wanted big changes to try and save the awards prospects. Director refused, and they hit a wall. Meanwhile, the actual royal family in Monaco went public, saying the whole movie was pure fiction. At that point, there's just a giant PR mess. Weinstein eventually pulled the film from any serious awards campaign, and it ended up dumped onto Lifetime in the US. It didn't even get a real theatrical release here. It made about $27 million worldwide, which means it barely made back the budget, and that's with Nicole Kidman headlining. It currently sits at 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Free State of Jones is a great example of how even with a big star and a big story, you can just totally miss the mark. Matthew McConaughey coming off his Oscar win, Civil War setting, $50 million budget. Studio positioned it as an awards hopeful. McConaughey plays Newton Knight, a medic who deserts the Confederacy, goes back home, and starts his own rebellion against the government. The whole thing sounds like classic Oscar bait, but people just didn't show up. The movie opened in summer 2016, never a great sign for an awards contender, got mixed to bad reviews, people called it slow, muddled, kind of dull, and ended up making about $25 million. No Golden Globes, no Oscars, not even a Golden Raspberry, just a couple minor nods, and then nothing. It wasn't hated, it was just ignored completely, which, honestly, might be worse. Concussion should have been a big deal. Will Smith, big NFL subject, $57 million budget, some actual early awards buzz. Smith did get a Golden Globe nomination, and for a minute it looked like he might get an Oscar nod. But come Oscar time? Nothing. And that led right into the whole Oscars so white backlash in 2016. The movie itself was called earnest but heavy-handed. Critics didn't hate it, but nobody really loved it either. The one thing that did come out, thanks to the Sony email hack, was that Sony actually softened the script and some of the marketing so they wouldn't make the NFL mad. Supposedly, they took most of the bite out of the story. The Daily Telegraph review nailed it. Concussion takes a serious subject and renders it in full-bore, crashing-bore, Oscar-courting prestige drama mode. Pretty much sums it up. This is one of those movies where, on paper, it looks like a can't miss. Will Smith, Helen Mirren, Kate Winslet, pretty much everyone who's ever had Oscar buzz, all together in one holiday drama. They spent about $36 million making it, and worldwide it pulled in $88 million, which, yeah, sounds decent until you realize most of that came from overseas. Domestically, it stalled out at $31 million, which is pretty underwhelming considering the cast, the December release, and all the marketing money behind it. You could tell the studio was aiming for another pursuit of happiness. Lots of crying, lots of big moments, the kind of thing you release right before Oscar voting. But as soon as critics saw it, that dream was over. The reviews were brutal. People called it horrifyingly yucky and a waste of talent. Behind the scenes, it was even messier. The original director left during pre-production over creative differences, so David Frankel came in at the last minute. Anytime you're swapping directors that late, it usually means there's a huge problem. So the end result was expected. 0 Oscar or Golden Globe nominations. The only awards attention Collateral Beauty got was a Razzie nomination. Worst screen combo for the entire cast of once respected actors. That pretty much says it all. £7 is a weird one here because financially, it wasn't a flop. Will Smith, same director as The Pursuit of Happiness, $55 million budget, and it actually made around $165 million worldwide. So people showed up, at least at first. But the Oscar dreams? Dead on arrival. This was supposed to be another awards contender for Smith, and the story's tailor-made for that. He plays a guy named Tim Thomas who kills 7 people, including his fiancée, in a car crash, then spends the rest of the movie trying to redeem himself by saving 7 strangers. It's what you call textbook Oscar bait. Critics hated it. Almost everyone called it manipulative and way too somber for its own good. The Guardian called it a supremely annoying film. The big twist here, it's not a spoiler at this point, he literally kills himself with a jellyfish so he can donate his organs to others. Honestly, this is as dumb as it gets. Here's the one that proves even good reviews can't save you if nobody shows up. It's the Billie Jean King versus Bobby Riggs tennis story with Emma Stone and Steve Carell, and the critics actually liked it, about 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. From the start, Fox Searchlight clearly thought they had an awards contender. Emma Stone had just won her Oscar, Steve Carell was already a nominee, and both got Golden Globe nods here too, for a musical comedy, plus some Screen Actors Guild love. But when Oscar time rolled around, nothing. Not a single nomination. It's actually pretty clear why that happened. First, it just didn't feel big enough in a year packed with awards bait. The tone was light and fun, great for the Globes, but the Academy likes its drama heavy. The box office didn't help. If nobody sees your movie, it's tough to build momentum, and Fox Searchlight had bigger horses to back that year. They pushed The Shape of Water instead. Ammonite is a classic case of early Oscar buzz that just fizzled. It's a quiet period romance with Kate Winslet, shot for under $15 million, limited release in late 2020, and barely made $1 million in theaters. Although with the pandemic and video on demand, that's not the full story. Right out of the gate, people were talking Oscar contender. Winslet plays real-life fossil hunter Mary Anning, Saoirse Ronan plays her lover, and the film's got gorgeous 1840s scenery and a ton of prestige energy. A lot of people said it was beautifully made but emotionally distant. By the time awards season hit, Ammonite was just absent from the big nominations. It never built up much momentum, and 2020 was a packed year for awards films anyway. There was a bit of controversy. The movie imagines a lesbian romance for Mary Anning, but there's zero historical evidence for that, so when the film was announced, some of Anning's descendants went public, calling the choice sensationalistic. The whole debate got some attention, but it didn't really tank the movie's awards chances. It just shifted the conversation for a while. In the end, Ammonite got a BAFTA nod for costumes, some minor British indie nominations, but nothing major. It's not a bad movie, it just never caught on. This one is a remake of the Oscar-winning 1949 classic. It's got pretty much everything. Pulitzer-winning source material, massive $55 million budget, and a cast loaded with Oscar winners: Sean Penn, Jude Law, Kate Winslet, Anthony Hopkins. On paper, it's bulletproof. In reality, it bombed just $9.5 million at the box office, one of the biggest flops of 2006. Originally, the studio wanted it out for late 2005 Prime Awards season, but test screenings were so bad they pushed it to 2006, basically giving up on its Oscar hopes. Critics were brutal, 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. Weak story, messy structure, and a total editing nightmare. Reportedly, Steve Zelian spent a year trying to fix it in the edit, but couldn't salvage anything. Behind the scenes, it was just as rough. The film couldn't decide what story to tell or even what tone to take. Studio confidence evaporated, the release date got bumped, and apparently there were several different versions floating around before it ever hit theaters. The result? No Oscar attention, no Globes, nothing. Last one, and honestly, you can't have a list like this without mentioning Bonfire of the Vanities. Warner Brothers bet $47 million on Tom Wolfe's mega bestseller, with Brian De Palma directing and a stacked cast: Tom Hanks, Melanie Griffith, Bruce Willis. In the end, what they got was a $15 million box office haul, and a movie so infamous for being bad that an entire book was written about how it went off the rails. This was supposed to be an Oscar contender, big stars, a huge, timely novel, prestige director. But the film was hated from the start. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 15%. Audiences and critics called it a vapid adaptation and fatally miscast. But the real fun here is what happened behind the scenes. Casting was a mess. Bruce Willis was forced into a part De Palma never wanted him for, and they actually changed the character's nationality to fit. Studio execs softened the satire, rewrote the ending after bad test screenings, and recut the movie multiple times trying to fix it. Even the billing was drama. Murray Abraham was so mad about not getting top credit, he had his name removed from the movie. All the executive meddling just made the movie worse at every turn. Bonfire didn't win any Oscars or Globes, but it cleaned up at the Razzies. 5 nominations, including Worst Picture, Worst Director, and Worst Actress for Melanie Griffith.